We are entering the doldrums of the NBA offseason, but there are still some quality unsigned players that you've forgotten about. I think by the end of this video, you're going to be like,
man, that guy still hasn't signed with anybody. We gotta go get him.
Guys, how's it going today? My name is Troy. This is the Half Court Report YouTube channel. Real quick, before we get into it, be sure you like this video and subscribe if you're new, or maybe you're a regular viewer and you still haven't subbed. Would love your support. You can always count on me for some of the best basketball content you're gonna find on YouTube. First off is Justice Winslow, and he was a regular in the Portland Trailblazers rotation last season before suffering an ankle injury in December. He ended up getting surgery, and that ended his season a little bit prematurely. Then when the Blazers traded for Matisse Thybulle and Cam Reddish, Winslow was pretty much a non-factor on that roster. So Winslow is a free agent searching for a new home to make his comeback. And I think he still has some things left in the tank. He averaged about 27 minutes per game for the Blazers before that injury. As for his game, Winslow is a bulky, versatile wing defender with an interesting offensive skill set. He does lack a reliable three-point shot. He's only about 31% for his career, but he makes up for that in a way by being a really solid playmaker, and he has the strength to absorb contact when he finishes at the rim. So if you put Winslow on a team, surround him with some shooters and another reliable playmaker, I think he can have a real positive impact. He's not a primary ball handler, but he can connect the dots as a guy who passes, a guy who drives, and a guy who doesn't get picked on defensively. So even though he's not much of a scorer, he does have a lot of role player traits that I think would be worthy of investment. It's mostly a matter of how confident those teams are with his injury history. Maybe I'm crazy, but I could see Justice Winslow as carving out a role as a poor man's Bruce Brown kind of player. Next up is Kendrick Nunn. He split last season between the Lakers and the Wizards. He was part of that Rui Hachimura trade. With Washington, pretty steady player, 7.5 points, couple assists, and only 14 minutes. And it wasn't that long ago, Nunn was a starter for the Miami Heat, averaging over 14 points per game. He had some injuries and has struggled to regain that pre-injury form. And another thing going against Nunn is he's only 6'2", and he's a scoring guard. So he's got to find the right team that's going to fit him best. But I see him as a guy who can be a spark plug scorer off the bench in the right situation. He's a good driver, he has nice pull-up shooting ability. So if you're looking for a microwave scorer who can fit on a lot of second units, I think he's a pretty versatile offensive player. And all in all, he's capable of leading the charge, running pick and roll, or operating off the ball and attacking closeouts on the perimeter. Then we've got Goran Dragic. He played in Chicago last year before they waived him. Then he ended up signing with Milwaukee toward the end of the season. So there's still a market for a guy with his veteran skill set and ability. Former All-Star, former All-NBA player. Once upon a time, he was one of the best point guards in the NBA. So I still think there's some left in the tank for Dragic, even though he is 37 years old and his defense has slipped a little bit. Played all right for a Chicago team that was in need of help at the point guard spot. Could hold down a minor role as a shooter and a guy who sets up his teammates. But again, in the right situation, I think he can have a little bit of an impact. Then we've got Derrick Jones Jr. He played in 64 games also for the Bulls last year, averaging about 5 points, 2.5 rebounds, and only 14 minutes per game. Jones is still in his basketball prime, 26 years old, but the question with him is, does he fit the changing landscape of the NBA? He only shot 34% from three last year on only about one attempt a game. And those were the best numbers of his career, actually. So he needs to continue to progress in that area. So that will really be key in determining his NBA future. Because the NBA is a shooter's league right now. And if we're being honest, that's not really Derrick Jones's game. He's a guy who likes to operate close to the rim. We remember those highlight dunks that he's shown throughout his career. And he also needs a guy who can feed him the ball. He can't create shots for himself. But he is an awesome athlete. He's got a really good feel for cutting to the hoop, making himself available for lobs, but he just can't create for himself. But he's 6'5", 7-foot wingspan. He understands how to make the best of his absurd leaping ability as a weak side rim protector. He's got those long arms, makes him a regular presence in passing lanes, and he's pretty quick on his feet. He can comfortably switch onto positions 1 through 4 in most matchups. And then finally, we've got Meyers Leonard. He was a starting center in the bubble just a few years ago, but fast forward to 2023, and the Bucks signed him mid-season after he was out of the league with some highly publicized issues. Meyers Leonard posted about 5 points, 4 rebounds, and just 12 minutes per game. He also shot 39% from 3. So that's a skill right there. He's also 7 feet tall. So a 7-footer who can splash threes, that's rare enough. But then Leonard, he's also a pretty bulky dude. He has the strength to handle physical matchups in the post, and he's a genuine stretcher of the defense at that 5 spot. Still only 31 years old. I think there's some left in the tank for Meyers Leonard, especially if you put him on a team with a superstar guy who's really going to operate close to the basket, who would be able to drive, kick out to his shooters. Meyers Leonard could be one of those shooters. Guys, what do you think of the names? Who are you surprised that is still unsigned? I need you to let me know in the comments. And if you've watched this far, also comment, what do you think these 5 players have in common? A little bit of NBA trivia for you at the end of this video. So be sure you like the video, be sure you hit subscribe to show your support. And if we're talking about the offseason, the Lakers did some pretty wild things. I actually did a whole video on the moves that they made. Check it out.